Yeah, welcome. So, the topic we'll be discussing in this lecture is basic processing unit. So, we are moving to the next chapter. So, in the last chapter, we have discussed about arithmetic operations that are performed, how the arithmetic operations are performed in a typical computer. Okay, so now we'll be moving to the next chapter of the book, which is basic processing unit. Right? So basically, basic processing unit in the sense it talks about CPU, the central processing unit. Central processing unit can also be called as basic processing unit, or otherwise it can also be called as instruction set processor. Can be also called as instruction set processor. Normally, you know that a central processing unit can be called as a processor. So more specifically, it can be called as an instruction set processor because it processes the set of instructions. Okay. So so as you know, a typical computer consists of a series of instructions, and these instructions will be executed by the processor. So how the instructions are actually getting executed internally, what is happening in the processor when a given instruction is executed. So it may be a small task, but it may involve a sequence of sub tasks which are very much interrelated, and how this is happening. That's what we are going to discuss in this chapter. So, so generally, the processor fetches and perform the given operation, and the address of the next instruction to be fetched, it will be available in the program counter. Okay, and normally the instruction flow will be sequential. It is currently, if the instruction is fetched from address X, then the next instruction is executed expected to be fetched from address X plus 1. Okay, I mean, if the address is only 1 byte, then each address occupies only 1 byte, and if the current instruction was fetched from the location X, then the next instruction will be fetched from the location X plus 1. Okay, right? Or normally we are discussing that each instruction occupies 32 bits, that is 4 bytes. In that case, if the current instruction is fetched from the location X, then the next should be from X plus 4, the next should be from X plus 8. Okay, the next instruction will be from X plus 8, then the next one will be from X plus 12, so on and so forth. Okay, but generally the instructions are expected to be executed from successive memory locations like this. Okay. But it is not always the case, because the program may also include a branch instruction or jump instructions. These are some of the exceptions. So in such case, this sequential flow of the instruction execution may get disturbed. In that case, the next address location may not be the successive memory location. It may be very much different. Okay. So whatever may be the case, but the address of the next instruction to be executed will be always available in the program counter. Okay, and using the content of the program counter, the processor uh, will fetch the instruction or the data from the location specified by the program counter. Okay, if it is an instruction, so the program counter may contain address. Okay, and this address, whatever the address that is specified by the program counter, it can be it can either refer to an instruction or it may refer to a data. Okay, so if it refers to an instruction, if it refers to a program instruction, okay, then the instruction should be decoded and executed, all those things. Okay, so in that case, that instruction will be loaded from that particular memory to a register inside the CPU, and that register is called as instruction register. I think all these things we have already discussed. Okay, so the program counter will hold the address of the next instruction, and that instruction will be fetched from the memory, and it will be stored in a register, and that register is called as IR. Okay, the instruction register. Fine. So this can be represented something like this. That is, whatever the content of PC represents some memory location. Okay, and that memory location contains whatever the instruction that will be loaded into IR, instruction register. Okay, so then so okay, so this is called as instruction fetch. Okay, this two steps put together, it is called as instruction fetch. Instruction fetch means the PC is getting loaded with the address of the next instruction. Okay, and that instruction and whatever the instruction specified by the PC, that is getting loaded into instruction register. Okay, then the ALU will decode the content of the instruction register, and accordingly it will execute the instruction. Okay, after executing the instruction, or during the execution of the current instruction itself, PC will get incremented. So assuming that each instruction occupies 32 bits, that is the word size of the computer as 4 bytes, then in that case PC will be incremented by 4. Okay, so the content of previously whatever PC points that refers to an instruction, and that is loaded into IR, and again the program counter will get incremented by 4. Okay, fine. Okay, uh, okay, so what does it says in the sense, this is the normal flow. That is, whatever the current instruction PC is pointing, that is loaded into IR. Okay, then immediately increment PC by 4, then execute the specified instruction given in IR. Okay, so because PC should always point to the next address to be executed, right? Okay, so it is not that after executing this PC will be incremented. No, before executing itself PC will be incremented, and then the current instruction will be executed. Okay, so that after this instruction PC will have an updated value, so that the next instruction can be loaded into the instruction register. Okay, right, fine. So internally, how all these things is going to happen, we are going to understand that with a process flow diagram. Okay, so if you see this particular thing, okay, so this entire thing actually it talks about something which is happening inside the processor. So all these things are part of CPU. Okay, so nothing is outside the CPU. Okay, so everything is inside CPU. All these are inside CPU. All these registers or all these blocks are there. Okay, and here you can see a bus. So this bus is not, previously we have discussed a bus. Okay, so that is a system bus. So that is not the bus which is inside the processor. That is a bus which is outside the processor. Whereas here you can see it is specifically mentioned internal processor bus. Okay, that is, this is a bus which is present inside the processor, and this bus connects the various functional units of the processor, right? So let us see what are the functional units here. So processor contains all these blocks. Okay, there is a program counter. Okay, there is memory address register, which we already discussed, which will hold the address of the, what you call, address from where the data is to be read or it's to be written. Okay, so if you take normal instruction execution also, we are telling that in the previous slide we have discussed that PC contains the address of the next instruction to be fetched. Okay, and it will be fetched and it will be stored in IR. We are telling like this, but actually how it happens, actually how it happens in the sense, PC contains the address of the next instruction to be fetched, but from PC that address will be moved to MAR. Okay, that address will be moved to MAR. Okay, so because anything if you want to fetch from the memory, it should be moved to MAR, memory address register. Okay, right? Then what you say, then you give a read operation, then the read line will be activated. Okay, read from memory, that will be activated. Okay, then whatever this address specifies, that location contains an instruction. Okay, so that instruction will be will be loaded to the MDR through the data lines, okay. Now the instruction is available in MDR, okay. Even though it is a data register, currently the instruction is available in MDR, okay. And from here the instruction will be transferred to IR, okay, that is instruction register, okay. So so even from program counter, if the next instruction to be fetched, it should be fetched only through MAR, okay. So so that's what I'm trying to say, okay. So MAR will hold the address of the memory location from which the next instruction to be read, okay. So that or not only reading from where the next instruction should be read, or from where or to where the next data or some content should be written, so that also will be stored in MAR, okay. So whether you want to perform read operation or write operation, read and write operation on memory. So if you want to write something to the memory location, then also MAR will hold the address at which location you want to write. If it is X, then X will be available here, okay. If you want to perform what you call read from some location, okay, if you want to perform read from some location, say Y, so then Y will be present in MAR and the signal given will be read, that is read from Y, okay. Are you getting? If you want to write into Y, then also MAR will contain Y and the signal given will be write into Y, okay, right, fine. So what will be written if MAR contains Y and the signal given is right, then what will be written? Whatever the data available in MDR, that will be written. Are you getting? Whatever the data available in MDR, that will be written, okay. Similarly, if MAR is Y and read operation is given, then what will be read? Whatever the data available in Y will be read into MDR, okay. It will be read into MDR, right, fine. So you can see here MAR and MDR are connected to memory bus. MAR and MDR are connected to memory bus. So here you have the system bus. So there is a system bus like how this is the internal processor bus. So the system bus is called as external bus because it is outside the processor. So it is called as external bus. So this external bus will be connected to memory, other IO devices, all these things, okay. So you can so the CPU is connected to the external world through MAR and MDR, okay. So these are MAR and MDR, so these are connected to the external bus, okay. If you see MAR, there is only MAR, the address can be transferred from internal bus to MAR, okay. and and the address will be whatever the address available in MAR, that will be transferred to the address bus. These address lines are called as address bus, okay, through which it is connected to the uh, external system bus. So what I mean in the sense, if you see this arrow, it is one direction, that is only address can be transferred from processor to the register, that is memory address register, and from here it will go to the address bus and it will refer to the appropriate address, okay. There is nothing like reverse, it is only one direction. But if you see MDR, it is bidirectional, that means that either data can go from CPU to MDR, okay, that is memory data register, or it can go from MDR to CPU also, right. So when it will go from CPU to MDR, if you want to write something to the memory, if processor wants to write something to memory, then the data will go from the internal bus to MDR, okay. If the processor wants to read something from the memory, then the data will move from MDR to internal bus, okay. Similarly, this also you can see it is arrow, it is two-sided arrow, right. This is the data bus connected with MDR. So the data available in MDR can be written to the data bus, okay, so that this data should be stored in the memory, okay. Or whatever the data available in MDR can be read into MDR, whatever the data available in the data bus, whatever the data available in the data bus can be read into MDR. Okay, because processor wants that data. Okay, so MDR is actually it works both the way, but MAR works only in one direction. Okay, and here is the ALU. So if you see arithmetic and logic unit, it takes two inputs. One of the input is from the multiplexer. One of the input is from the multiplexer. And if you see, this multiplexer has two inputs. One is a constant 4. One is a constant 4. The other one is Y. Other one is Y. Y is a temporary register. Y is a temporary register, but these are not available for user purpose. Okay, these are used by the processor to store temporary results. These Y and Z are temporary registers which are used internally by the processor. These registers will not be available for user access. Okay, so what multiplexer will do in the sense, either it will take this constant as the input, or it will take this Y as the input, and it will go as the one of the input for ALU, right? So when constant will be taken and when Y will be taken means, if Y is activated, or Y is enabled, if you enable Y, then the input available in Y will go into go it will be going as an input to A, right? If Y is not enabled, then this constant will go as the input, right? Okay, so these are the two inputs of what you call ALU. So one of the input comes through the multiplexer, but this multiplexer again takes two inputs, Y and constant 4, but any one will be activated. If Y is activated, then whatever available in Y, that will go into A. If Y is not activated, then this 4 will go into A. Okay, and that will be selected by this. Okay, if select Y, by default, if select Y is enabled, it won't be enabled by default. If select Y is enabled, then the content of Y will get into A. Okay, otherwise the constant 4 will get into A, right? Okay, fine. So ALU does not have any registers inside. That is, ALU cannot store any data. Whatever available through A and whatever available through B, it will perform the appropriate operation. Okay, and there is no internal storage available within ALU. It will just perform the operation, and it will move the result to a register, and that register is called as Z. It will move the register output or the result to a register, and that register is called as Z. Okay, fine. So if you see here, ALU was given some inputs like add, subtract, whatever the operation, because it can perform different operation, add, subtract, multiply, divide, XOR, whatever the arithmetic and logical operation, that are specified by some control lines. And from where these control lines are coming, if you ask, actually it is coming from this decoder logic, instruction decoder logic. Okay, so you can also specify that instruction decoder logic here, right, for clarity. Okay, so basically this outputs, so if you see this instruction decoder logic, it has this output as control signals. Okay, so these control signals are nothing but it is going as input to here. Okay, so this is the understanding. Okay, so the diagram became clumsy, so it is not shown, but actually it is going here. Okay, so normally after the PC will hold the address of the next instruction, and the instruction will be loaded into IR, right, instruction register. From there the instruction register will be decoded, I mean the instruction present in the instruction register will be decoded by this decoder logic, and then it will understand what operation should be performed, and accordingly the appropriate control line will be activated. If it is an add operation, then add line will be activated. If it is subtract, then subtract will be activated. If it is divide will be activated, so on and so forth. Okay, then ALU will perform the operation and it will store the result in Z, all those things. Okay, right, and this R0 to Rn-1 are the general purpose registers available in the CPU. Okay, so these are called as general purpose registers, let me say as GPR. Okay, so these registers will be available for the programmers, okay, or to the user, so the user can use these registers in his programs, right? All these registers are connected two way. That is, if the data, you can move data from the register to the internal bus, or the data can be moved from internal bus to the register. Either way it works, right? Okay. Then this is also another temporary register for storing temporary result, and these registers are not available for user access. So if you see this Y, Z, temp, all these are temporary registers. Okay. So this diagram gave us a brief overview about the central processing unit or basic processing unit. Okay, fine. So now let us discuss four cases. So there are four typical cases that can happen in a processor, or there are four typical operations that can be performed by a processor. How these four operations are carried out, that's what we are going to understand. Okay. So the first operation is to transfer a word from one register to another. How a word of data is getting transferred from one register to another register. How it is internally happening. What are the exact steps going on, that we are going to understand. Okay. The second is performing an arithmetic or logical operation and storing the result in the processor register. How exactly the arithmetic or logical operation is done, and how the result is getting stored in the any one of the register. That's the second thing we are going to discuss. And the third is how can we fetch the contents of a memory location into one of the processor register. Okay, how to fetch the content of a memory location into the processor register. Okay, and the fourth one is how to store a word of data from the processor register to a given memory location. How to store a word of data from a processor register to a given memory location. So these are the four things which we are going to discuss. So this covers almost all the operations that can be performed by a processor. So how exactly this is going to happen, that's what we are going to understand. First is transferring a word of data from one register to another. Next is performing an arithmetic or logical operation and storing the result in the register. Third is to fetch the content of a given memory location and load them into processor register. Okay, and the last one is to store the word of a data from register to memory. Okay, third is from memory to register, fetching data from memory to and to load them in a register. The fourth one is storing data from the register to the memory. Okay, so these are the four cases which we are going to discuss, right? So first let us talk about register transfers. That is how to transfer data from one register to another register. Exactly how it's happening. That's what we are going to understand. Okay. So this is just it is another version of that previous diagram whatever we have discussed, but here we are concentrating only on register part. Okay. So all these things, if you see, it is same as that of the previous diagram. Okay. The ALU takes two inputs, one from multiplexer and one is from the internal bus, and here there is Y. Okay. So there is another Y in is added here. Okay. So what does it mean in the sense? We will discuss this anyway later. That is, if yin is activated, if yin is enabled, then at that time, if whatever the data available in the internal bus, that will be transferred to the register Y. That's the meaning. Okay. But now our focus is not on this part. Now our focus is not on this part. Okay. This is we are not focusing here. So you can just ignore that. Our focus is here. Okay. So what is this? This contains all the registers. Okay, this contains all the, this is basically talking about all registers. This is generalized RI. Okay, in the previous diagram registers are shown in the right side. It can be shown anywhere. Okay, but in this diagram the registers are shown in the left side. Okay, so RI represents any register. It can be either R0 or R1 or R7 or whatever it may be. It's a general, right? Okay. So if you see, there are two things. One is R in and the other one is R out. Okay, R in is connected to RI with an input arrow, whereas R out is connected with or RI input and RI output. RI out is connected with RI uh, with an outgoing arrow. Okay, so what does it mean? It means that uh, let us take a typical example. So if say for example, if it is R1 in, if it is R1 in, it means that whatever available in the internal bus, it will be moved to R1. Okay, it means input something to R1. It means input something to R1. What is to be inputted? Whatever the data available in the internal bus, that will be stored in R1. That is what it means. R1 in means. Okay, if it is R1 out, if it is R1 out, if it is R1 out, it means that whatever the data available in R1, whatever the data available in R1, you move that to the internal bus. That's what the meaning. Whatever the data available in R1, move that to the internal bus. Okay, that's the meaning. Okay, so this can be generalized. So if Ri in, it means that the data available in the internal bus should be moved to the given Ri register. If it is Ri out, then the data available in the Ri should be moved to the internal processor bus. Okay, so that's the meaning. Okay, so for example, now say to transfer content from R1 to R4, exactly what we have to do is, this is what you have to do. We have to transfer from R1 to R4. Okay, so enable R1 out. Enable R1 out. R1 out means what? When you do R1 out, what will happen? When you do R1 out, what will happen? The content of R1 will be placed in the internal bus. The content of R1 will be placed in the internal bus. Okay, these two operations were done in the same clock cycle. Okay, but in this order: first R1 out, then R4 in. So whatever available in R1, now it is available in the internal bus. Okay, now you are saying R4 in. Now you are saying immediately R4 in. Okay, so when you say R4 in, what happens? The content available in the internal bus. Now what's the content available? The previously whatever is in R1, that is available in internal bus. So that will be moved to R4 in. Okay, so the content available in the internal bus will be moved to R4 in. Okay, but you know that the content currently available in internal bus is nothing but the content of R1, nothing but the content of R1. So now you have moved the content of R1 to R4, right? Okay, so how will you move the content of R3 to R5? If I want to move the content of R3 to R5, what will you do? Again it is same, R3 out. R3 out means the content of R3 will be moved to the internal bus and then perform R5 in. That is, whatever in the internal bus will be moved to R5. But what is in internal bus currently? The content of R3. So R3 is moved to R5. Okay, and these two operations will be done in the same clock cycle. It will be done in the same clock cycle. Okay, right? So this is how the contents are transferred from one register to another register. Okay. So this basically says about the clock pulse. So we have discussed that these two instruction actually should execute in a single clock pulse. Okay, so how a clock pulse works for a 1 bit data. Normally registers may be 16-bit or 32-bit, but this diagram shows how the clock works for an 1 bit input. Okay, let us assume there is only 1 bit. The clock can, I mean this circuit can assume that Ri can hold only 1 bit. In that case, this circuit with this circuit we can try to understand the how the data is either read from the bus or returned to the bus. Okay, so this is the bus, this is the internal bus. Okay, if Ri in is activated, what should happen? As per our previous understanding, if Ri in is activated, what should happen? The data from the internal bus should be moved to uh, R4, okay, or Ri, that's the meaning, okay. So here also, if Ri in is activated, then what will happen in the sense, whatever the content in the bus will be coming into Ri, okay, and that will get into the flip flop, okay. Let us not bother about the flip flop, what is doing all these things, okay, right, fine. And then here you have Ri out, okay. We are not discussing for 16 bits. For 1 bit, we are just trying to understand how it will be internally implemented, okay. If Ri out is activated, if Ri out is enabled, okay, then whatever the output of Q, that will be placed in the system bus, okay. The output of Q can be either 0 or 1. If it is 0, it will write 0 to the bus. If it is 1, it will write 1 to the bus, okay. If Ri out is 0, then it means that this is electrically disconnected from the bus, okay. Nothing is happening, it is the circuit is disconnected, okay, right. The R1 is no more, Ri is no more connected with the bus, okay, right. So this is how it is internally done. So similarly, this is how it is internally implemented for either 16 bit or 32 bit, okay. We are trying to understand with a 1 bit register, fine, okay. So first what we have discussed is register transfer. So register transfer, it happens like this only. When you give a example, for example, when you give like move R4 comma R5, so actually internally this is what is happening, right. That is move R4, comma R5, in the sense, let us say, moving the content from R5 to R, then what will happen? R5 out, the content of R5 will be moved to the internal processor bus, and then R4 in, that is whatever is in the internal processor bus will be moved to R4, okay, right, fine. So we have discussed one thing, that is how the contents are transferred from one register to another register. The next thing what we are going to discuss is how an arithmetic operation or a logical operation is being carried out, okay. So as we already discussed, arithmetic operation or logical operation will be carried out by ALU, and ALU does not have any internal storage. There is no internal storage for ALU. If you recollect the previous diagram, ALU gets two operands. ALU takes two inputs, okay. So basically it receives two operands. One is an output from the multiplexer, okay, and the other is from the bus. First input is from the multiplexer and the second input is from the bus. So if you see this diagram, ALU takes two inputs. One is from the multiplexer, A is from the multiplexer, and B comes directly from the internal bus, right. And it performs the operation, and it will store the result in the register Z, okay, fine, okay. So let us try to understand what is the sequence of operation to add the content of R1 with R2 and store the result in R3, okay. So this is what you want to do. In the sense, add of the actual task that we want to do is add R3 comma R1 comma R2, R3 comma R1 comma R2, that is add, this is R1, add R1 and R2 and store the result in R3. This is what we want to do. So let us see how it is done exactly. Fine. So these are the steps which are required to perform that operation, okay. So if you see, this is done, these two steps were done in the first clock cycle, this two will be done in the second clock cycle, and this will be done in the third clock cycle. So what is this? R1 out comma Y in. So which are the two contents you want to add? R1 and R2. So R1 contains some content, so you are saying R1 out. When you say R1 out, the content of R1 will be moved to internal bus, okay. The content of R1, so let us say this is internal bus, let me call it as IB. The content of R1 will be moved to internal bus. So now R1 is available in the internal bus. At the same time you are activating Y in. What is Y in? Y in is the input to uh, is one of the input to multiplexer. So when Yn is activated, what happens? Whatever is in internal bus will be moved to Y. Whatever is in internal bus will be moved to Y. Okay. So now what is in internal bus? Now if you recollect, in internal bus we have uh, R1. Okay, this is R1, right? So this is R1. So in internal bus you have R1. Okay. So now that will be moved to Y. That will be moved to now Y. So this first instruction actually it does these two things in the first clock cycle. First it successfully moves the content of R1 to the internal bus, and then the content of R1 will be moved to Y. Then what we are doing, R2 out, select Y, add Z in. Four things we are doing in the second clock cycle. Four tasks we are doing in the second clock cycle. What are the four things? R2 out. R2 out means content of R2 will be moved to the internal bus. So now R1 is not in the internal bus. In internal bus you have R2. In internal bus now you have R2. Then what you are saying, select Y. Select Y means what? Whatever is in Y, that will go as the first input of ALU. Whatever in Y, that will go as the first input to ALU. Because if Y is selected, then constant will not go. So what is in Y? Actually Y contains R1. Actually Y contains R1, right? So this will go into the multiplexer, and that is Y is already selected. So that will go into A. So the input for A is R1. Input for A is R1. Okay, so that's what it says. And next instruction is what? It is R2 out. R2 out means R2 is available in the internal bus, right? So that we already discussed. So it also means that if R2 is available in the internal bus, it also means that R2 is taken and it is used by B. Okay, so B is nothing but now R2. B is R2, A is R1. So both are available. Okay, and now add is also given, right? So as per the instruction, the next is add. Okay, so when you say add, R1 and R2 will be added. R1 and R2 will be added. Okay, and the result, where it will go? Result Zin is activated. So if Zin is activated, that result will go into Z. The result will be getting into Z because you have activated Zin. Okay, so you have activated Zin. You have selected Y. I mean, first you did R2 out, then select Y, then add. Once added, there is no memory in ALU. It cannot hold. So Zin is activated. Let us see this diagram. So Zin is activated. So the result will be now available in Z. Okay. Now finally, you have to move the result to R3. Okay. For that, what you have to do? You have to do two things. One is Z out. If you enable Z out, the content of, there is here Z out. Okay. If you enable Z out, the content of the register Z will be returned to the internal bus. Okay. So now the result of R1 and R2, that is what available in Z. Okay, so whatever the result of R1 plus R2, that will go into the internal bus. Okay, but that should be stored where? That should be stored where? That should be actually R1 and R2, not R3. R1 and R2, that will be moved to the internal bus, but where it should be stored? It should be stored in R3. So apart from enabling Z out, you should also enable R3. You should also enable R3 in. You should also enable R3 in. Okay, so that this result, which is sum of R1 and R2, will be moved from internal bus to R3. So that is the last step that we will be doing. Okay, so Z out comma R3 in. So the result of R1 plus R2, which is available in the internal bus, will be moved to the register R3 with this instruction R3 in. Okay, So these are the sequence of operations which will be performed when you add when you perform an arithmetic operation. Okay, so these two things will be done in the first clock cycle, right? And all these four things will be done in the second clock cycle, and these two things will be done in the third clock cycle, right? So this is about performing an arithmetic and logical operation, right? Fine. Then let us see how to fetch a word from the memory. Okay, so if you want to read something from the memory, then how it is done? Okay, so whichever the memory location from which you want to read the data or the instruction or whatever it may be, that should be available in MAR. That should be available in MAR, memory address register. Then give the read operation, issue the read operation. The processor should issue the read operation, and the data will be available in MDR. These are the brief steps. Okay, these are the brief steps. Okay, so the memory address from which the data should be read, that memory address should be available in MAR. Give the read operation, and the data from the memory will be moved to MDR. Okay, fine. So if you see MDR, actually MDR takes two inputs and there are four lines connected with MDR. It has two inputs and it has two outputs. So if you see MDR, it is connected with internal bus and also it is connected with the external bus. This is internal bus. Okay, so it can read from the internal bus. The data available in the internal bus can be stored in MDR. Okay, how it will be done means it will be done through MDR in. So if MDR in is activated, then the data stored from the internal bus will go to MDR. Okay, similarly if MDR out is activated, then the data stored in MDR will go to the internal bus. Okay, will go to the internal bus. This is processor bus, right? Similarly, it has also connection with external bus or the memory bus, which is okay. So here also it can perform MDR in and MDR out. But to differentiate these two things, we are calling this as MDR in E and MDR out E. Okay, so E stands for external bus. If there is nothing, then it is with internal bus. Okay, if just MDR in means, it means read data from the internal bus. If just MDR out means write the content of MDR to the internal bus. MDR in means whatever the data available in the external bus, read it to MDR. MDR in means the data available in the external bus will be read into MDR. Okay, MDR out means the data available in the MDR will be returned to, sorry, MDR out E means the data available in the MDR will be returned to the external bus, okay, right? So this is the bus that connects with the external memory and other peripherals, right? So this understanding is required to further proceed with like how we can fetch a word from the memory. Okay, right. So when you want to fetch a data from the fetch a instruction or a word from the memory, actually the memory access time varies. Okay, if the content, whatever the content you want to fetch, if it is available in the cache, then it can be fetched within one clock cycle. Otherwise if the data is to be fetched from memory, it will take long time. Okay, it may take more than one clock cycle. So processor should know whether the data has been fetched or not. Okay, for that there is a signal, processor uses a signal, and this signal is called as MFC. MFC, which means MFC means memory function completed. Okay, memory function completed, that is once the data is available, if you are fetching the data from the memory to the processor, then first the data will come into the data bus. The data will first come into the data bus. Okay, then it should be moved to MDR. Okay, so for moving, actually you have to activate MDR in E. Only if you activate MDR in E, then only the data will be moved from the data bus to MDR. Okay, right. So this bus contains address and data lines. So So the lines which carries address is called as address bus, the lines which carries data is called as data bus. Okay, so after the data is available, MDR in should be issued. Then only the data will move from data bus to the register. Okay, so processor cannot keep on waiting for that. For that, processor uses a signal called as memory function completed. So once this signal is activated, if memory function completed is activated, then it means that the data is available in the bus and it can read it. For that, this memory function completed logic is used. Okay, so let us try to understand how a word is fetched from the memory using this example. So move R1 comma R2. R1 is given within bracket, so which means that R1 represents some memory location. R1 contains some address. Say if R1 contains 1001, it means that move the content of the memory location 1001 to R2. Okay, so the memory location 1001, it contains some content. It may be either an instruction or a data, we are not bothered of that. Okay, but that content should be moved to R2. So that is what this instruction is expecting. So whatever the content available here, it should be moved to R2. Okay, so how it is going to be done, that's what we are going to discuss. So these are the typical steps. This is not the actual flow, but this is the steps. Okay, so whatever the content of R1 first will be moved to MAR, right? Because R1 contains the address from where the particular instruction of data should be, or the content should be read to R2. Okay, first move the content of R1 to MAR. Okay, R1 contains the address. Then start a read operation on the memory bus. Initiate the read operation on the memory bus because you want to read from memory, because this represents a memory location, right? And then wait for the MFC. Wait for the MFC because this may take more than one clock cycle. So wait for the processor will wait for the MFC response from the memory. This MFC will be given by memory. Okay, so you can assume that if this is memory and if this is CPU, okay, whenever CPU wants to read something from the memory, it just places a request to the memory. Request in the sense everything it happens through MAR, all those things, but then memory will respond back with MFC. Memory will respond back with MFC, memory function complete. Okay, then only the processor will activate the what you call, then only the processor will activate MDR in E. Okay, so that the data from the data bus can be moved to MDR. Okay, right? So after starting the read operation, the processor waits for the MFC response from the memory. Okay, once the MFC response is available, it will activate MDRIE. So if MDRIE is activated, the data from the memory bus, okay, from the memory bus, that is memory bus contains two types of lines, address lines and data line. In this case, it will be available, the data will be available in the data lines, or you can call it as data bus. From there it will be moved to MDR. Okay, so these are the sequence of operations that should be carried out. Fine. So exactly how it is carried out means this is the set of tasks which will be done. Okay, so what we want to do, if you recall the instruction, it is move R1 comma R2, that is R1 represents the memory location, the content of R1 should be moved to R2. So in the first clock cycle, what we are doing is R1 out, MAR in and read. Okay, R1 out means what? Whatever is in R1 will go into system bus, that is internal bus. So now R1 is available in internal bus. Okay, at the same time you are also saying MAR in. So MAR in means here MAR is there. So whatever available in the system bus will get into MAR. Okay, what is available in system bus or internal bus? R1. So R1 will get into MAR. Okay, and now you are telling read operation. Now you are telling read operation. So it is a intimation to the memory perform the read operation, but this may take more than one clock cycle. This may take more than one clock cycle. So the processor has to wait for the MFC, that is memory function, complete. Okay. But if the memory function is completed, then immediately what you should do, once the memory function is completed, then you have to activate MDR in E. Okay. Then you have to activate MDR in E, so that the data will be moved to MDR. Okay. But see, actually if you see, only after MFC, MDR in E should be activated, right? Only after MFC, only after receiving the memory function complete, then only MDR in E should be activated, right? But here if you see, we are first itself activating MDR in E. Why we are doing like this means, uh, uh, we don't want to waste the time. That's the meaning. Waste in the sense, we don't want to waste a few microseconds also. uh, Anyway you cannot read until MFC is not activated. Okay. But what we are doing is, we are keeping the MDR in E already activated. We are keeping it in activated stage. So here the system bus is there, or the external bus is there. From here only the data should be moved to MDR. Okay. So we keep this MDR in E enabled. We keep this MDR in E enabled. But even though it is enabled, uh, as long as the data is not available, it cannot read anything, right? But the moment this MFC is given, that is memory function complete signal is given, the moment MFC is activated, then immediately the data will be moved to MDR. Okay, right? So if you give first MFC and then if you give MDR, then there may be some gap between that. Okay, I mean that will create some little delay. To avoid that delay, we are doing in the reverse way. Okay, that doesn't mean that before MFC we are doing MDR in E. No, we just keep it activated. But only when MFC is completed, the data will be moved to MDR, right? Now the data is available in the MDR. Whatever R1, the memory location R1's contains. Say if R1 contains, it can be either instruction or data. Okay. Say this is the location specified by R1. So it is 1001 or whatever it may be, right? Say this R1, if it contains 28, this 28 is now available in MDR. Okay. But where you have to move? You have to move to R2. So the last instruction is MDR out, R2 in. So when you say MDR out, this will be moved to the system bus. So this 28 will move to the system bus. Okay. Now in system bus you have 28, not R1. But finally it should be moved to R2 in. So at the same time we are activating R2 in. So when you activate R2 in, what will happen? R2 in is activated. So if this is R2, whatever available in the system bus will be moved to R2. What is available? 28. What is that 28? That is the data or the content of the location referred by R1, right? So this is how a word is fetched from the memory, right? So whatever we have discussed is shown here in a timing diagram. So this is the clock pulse. This is the clock pulse. Okay, initially the address from which you want to read the data, that will be stored in MAR. So MAR is activated. That is when you give this instruction, when the content of R1 is moved to MAR, so MAR gets activated by that time, right? Okay, MAR gets activated by that time. So then whatever is available in MAR will be moved to the address bus. So this is address bus. Here you can see there is a change in the address bus, which means that previously address bus contains some address. But once this MAR is added with the new address, that new address comes into address bus now. There is a slight time difference, but now the new address comes into the address bus. That is whatever the address specified by R1, that is in the address bus. Okay, right? It is the external address bus. We are talking about external address bus because we want to read from memory, right? So MAR. So this is MAR. MAR is connected with internal bus, and also it is connected with external bus. So this address whatever you gave here, it is transferred to the external bus. Okay, external bus. Okay, bus contains two types of lines, address lines and data lines. It is, this is address, right? So it is transferred to the address line. Okay, now at the same time when MAR is loaded with the address of the particular memory location, the read is also activated. That is read, that which means that read data from this location, read data from this location. Okay, okay, which means that read data from this location. So once read is activated, so this read is a signal, read is a signal, you are telling read now perform the read operation. Okay, now the read operation happens, this is memory read. Okay, this is a signal, just this is a read. So read operation happens from this time to this time. So whatever the address which is given in by this address bus, okay, whatever the address represented by the address bus, that is R1, R1 is the that address that is available in the address bus now. Okay, say let us, for our understanding, let us say this address is 1001. Okay, so the data from that will be read now. So MR means actual read operation is going on. Okay, the data from that location will be read. Let us assume that data is 28 and MDR in E is activated. So which means that data will be moved to MDR. Okay, that is 28. Okay, right. So the data is moved to MDR. Okay, but actually the data will be and where the data will be available, data will not be, the MR is also, it is memory reading, it is memory reading, but the data will be MR says perform the read operation, that's it. Okay, it is performing the read operation, but after performing the read operation, uh, yeah, this after performing the read operation, we are activating, while performing the read operation itself, we are activating MDR in E. So MDR in E is activated, right? Okay, if once the memory read is successfully completed, the data will be available in the data bus. This is data bus, this is data bus. Once the data was read successfully, the data will be available in the data bus. So we are assuming by this time the data is available in the data bus. Okay, because read is activated here, so it will take some time to read, right? So after 1 or 2 clock cycles, so you can see here there are 2 clock cycles, the data is available in the data bus, right? Now data is available, MDR in is activated, but by the time MFC signal also will be given. Okay, because data is already read. Okay, it means memory function complete. Okay, so now the data will be moved to MDR. Okay, by this time the data will be moved to MDR. Okay, now the data will be moved to MDR. Okay, fine. Now the data will be moved to, now the data will be available in MDR. Okay, and then finally you are using MDR out. So when you say MDR out, the data will be moved from MDR to R2, MDR to R2, right? Okay, so so this is how the things work. Okay, so here actually MDR in is activated, but only when MFC is given, only when MFC is given, the data will be available in MDR, right? Once MFC is done, we are giving MDR out, so that the data from MDR will be moved to R2. Okay, so this is the timing diagram of that particular instruction, whatever we have discussed for reading content from a memory location. Okay, fine. Then let us see the fourth case, which is storing a word into memory. How we will store a word to memory? So let us take this particular instruction, move R2 comma R1, which means that the R2 contains some data, and that we want to move to this memory location specified by R1. Okay, say let us say R1 refers to the memory location, R1 refers to the memory location, say 20 20. Okay, and say, so R1, okay, R1 R1 specifies the memory location 2020. Let us say R2 contains some data, say 99. This should be returned to this memory location. 99 should be returned. This is the objective of this statement. So how it will be done? What are the sequence of operations means? R1 out, comma MAR in. Okay. So when you give R1 out, what will happen? Whatever is in R1, that will be moved to the system bus. What is in R1? As per our understanding, it is 2020. 2020 will be moved to the system bus. But during the same clock cycle, you are also giving MAR in. So here is MAR. Here is MAR. Then MAR, MAR in means what? Read from the system bus. Take input from the system bus. So this 2020, this address will be now coming to MAR. Okay, right? Then what we are doing? R2 out, comma MDR in, comma write. Okay, R2 out, comma MDR in, comma write. Okay, so what does it mean? It means that write to R2. It means that write to R2. Sorry, R2 out means whatever is in R2. Whatever is in R2. Okay, R2 out means whatever is in R2 will go to system bus. What is in R2 as per our understanding? 99. So now 99 will come to R2. 99 will come to system bus. Okay, R2 out means whatever is in R2 will come to system bus. So now 99 will come to system bus. Okay, and MDR in. This is MAR. MAR contains 2020. That is the address from which the address to which the data should be written. Okay, and now you are activating MDR in. So now the system bus contains 99, not 2020. Okay, when you activate MDR in, this 99 will get into MDR. So this is MDR and the top one is MAR. Okay, so 99 will get into MDR. Okay, and at the same time you are activating write. Okay, write means which means this data should be returned to this location. Okay, so what happens? MAR and MDR is connected with the system bus, right? So this address will be moved to the address bus. The address bus will have 2020 and this data will be moved to the data bus. Okay, the system bus contains two types of buses. Always remember, one is address bus and data bus. Address bus can carry only address, data bus can carry only data. So the address bus will hold 2020 and the data bus will hold 99. Okay, right? And the signal given is write, and the signal given is write. So what will happen? So what will happen in the sense, whatever the data that is what do you call, whatever the data that is available in MDR will be returned to this memory location, which is 2020. So to this memory location, this 99 will be returned. Okay, right? So but this operation will take some time to complete. Okay, this operation will take some time to complete because writing will take some time. Okay, so that here finally we are giving MDR out E. Okay, this is write signal is generated. But writing will take some time. Okay, once everything is done, then what will happen? The MFC will be activated, memory function complete. Then actually you have to perform the actual write MDR out E. Then MDR out E should be enabled, but we are doing in the reverse way. First we are enabling MDR out E and then we are giving WMFC, that is write memory function complete. But even though if you give like this also, only after MFC is completed, this data will be returned to the particular memory location. Okay, then why we are giving this like this? In the sense, it will reduce the time to a certain extent. Okay, it will reduce the time to a certain extent. Or previously we are keeping this MDR out line enabled. This is nothing but MDR out. Okay, this is nothing but mdr out e. Okay, we are keeping it enabled, but there is no meaning in keeping it enabled until WMFC is generated. Okay, the moment WMFC is generated, the data will be immediately moved. Okay, and it will be written, so that we are keeping it enabled prior to WMFC. Okay, if you write this in the reverse way, there may be some little delay. To avoid that delay, we are doing like this, right? So this is the sequence of operations that is given to perform this task, storing a word into memory, right? So these are the four tasks: transferring content from a register to a register, performing arithmetic operation, reading a data from memory location, and storing a word to a memory location. Okay, fine. So this is how the processing unit works. So okay, so let us stop here. Thank you.